It's time for the Inside Pitch, the official off-season radio show of your Winnipeg Goldeyes. On the home of the Goldeyes, 93.7 CJNU.
Seven o'clock, and it's time for a new season of the Inside Pitch here on CJNU 93.7 FM. Trevor Curl here, and I'm excited to bring you more Goldeye baseball here in 2026. This will be my third season inside the broadcast booth at Blue Cross Park. Speaking of Blue Cross Park, it's going to be a little bit until we get back home. First, we got to get through opening day, which sits at 107 days from tonight. The Goldeyes will be down in Franklin, Wisconsin to take on the Milwaukee Milkmen. But just a couple of days later, which currently sits at 111 days for us at this very moment, the Goldeyes will be back home inside of Blue Cross Park on Tuesday, May the 19th at 6:30 p.m. to take on the Kane County Cougars. Tickets are on sale now. Go to goldeyes.com for more information. We have a great episode tonight to kick off our first Inside Pitch 2026. Skipper Logan Watkins is sitting on the dugout bench right now, and Logan will get us through the roster and a couple of new signings that he has, and we will then go to the bullpen. Tasker Strobel will close out the first episode here this evening. First, we have a couple of signees to talk about. Very briefly, we didn't get a chance to talk about it in the episode. Things were recorded a lot earlier than planned for Logan and Tasker, so I didn't exactly get my most recent information that we have right now. This first one, we will start with our newly found outfielder coming from the country of Aruba. Giandido Trump, brother of Chadwick Trump, who is currently in the San Francisco Giants big league roster, will come to the Goldeyes with a wealth of experience. He has played all over the globe. That's right, not just North America, the globe. He's played in Italy, the Netherlands. He's played in the Caribbean islands. He has played everywhere, including over 600 games in the minor leagues. Mostly with the Philadelphia Phillies organization. Trump comes into the 2026 season hungry after the 2025 season in which he played abroad. The 32-year-old outfielder will primarily play in left field alongside with Noah Marcello in center and Max Murphy in right. And then we have a newly entered southpaw coming in from the bullpen. Kevin Vappel will be joining the Goldeyes after a 2025 season with the Class A level affiliate for the Miami Marlins in Jupiter, Florida. In 30 games, the left-hander also had a start where he posted a 1-1 record with a 3.37 ERA with 62 strikeouts across 53 and a thirds innings. The 24-year-old Vappel made his professional debut in the Florida Complex League with the Marlins in 2023 and made one appearance. He did miss out on the 2024 year, so you know that the young left-hander is excited for a new opportunity north of the border. We have a lot to get through our first episode, so no more diddly-daddling. It's time to go. Here's to Logan Watkins.
And welcome back to the Inside Pitch here on CJNU 93.7 FM. First episode of the 2026 season. Standing by with skipper Logan Watkins. Logan, how's the offseason been so far for you?
Everything's been really good. We had a fairly mild winter up here, and it's just now starting to get cold. I think we're going to get some snow tomorrow for the first time pretty much this entire offseason. So, but for the most part, holidays were good. Family's good. It's been fun, and I'm ready to get back up to Winnipeg and get another season going.
I can't say much on the winter side of things. It's 66 right now. We're about to hit 77 degrees here in St. Petersburg, Florida. I love the beach weather so far. I've been beach bumming it up pretty much mostly this off season. A little bit of time in Arizona, but yeah, I'm ready to get back to cold weather, actually, surprisingly. It's about a couple of months away, so finishing up here in February, I'll make my way up sometime in March, and it's going to be another fun season of Goldeye baseball. So speaking of Goldeye baseball, let's backtrack a little bit to last season, to kind of one of those oddball type of years. Despite a rather interesting record of 41-59, that doesn't really tell the story of what the whole season was. When you look at teams who usually have a record like that, it's usually something was really lacking. Either the offense or the pitching was both lacking. In this case, it was more of just kind of the offensive side of things wasn't carrying the same weight that the pitching side was. But it's a lot more about one-run ball games. We'll talk about that in a moment. But let's just go through a brief kind of the recap of what you saw from your seat last year.
Yeah, last year's like you already mentioned it, a ton of one-run games, and it just felt like we weren't bad offensively, but we weren't very clutch the whole year. We had plenty of opportunities to win. Every single one of those games were a hit or two away, and for whatever reason, we just never came through. I feel like we came back to the coach's office a lot, and Brew and Donnie and myself would just kind of have the same conversations over and over. It's like, man, you had bases loaded with one out, and we hit into a double play, or we got a guy to third with less than two outs, and we didn't score him. And good teams take advantage of those opportunities, and um, we never really did last year. I mean, obviously the injuries that we dealt with is pretty well documented. When you're going through a season, you're hoping that you're trying to, make some moves and add players that's only going to strengthen your team. But it felt like the entire year we were just kind of plugging holes and trying to hold it together just to give us a chance. And then coupled with our division being about as strong as it's ever been, we had no easy wins. It felt like every series was always a battle. But I was proud of the guys. I mean, we picked up some good pieces, some good young pieces that came in and proved that they deserve to be on the team. Going into 2026. But we also definitely kind of identified where our weaknesses were and what we needed to add. And I felt like we've done a pretty good job so far this offseason. And it's when you play good teams, which I expect our division to be really tough again this year. When you play good teams, um, you have to have some grit to you, and you have to have some clutch in you, and we have to, who's going to come through with that big hit. That's going to be the biggest difference of winning and losing. And if you remember, it wasn't like we were blowing a bunch of leads last year. It wasn't like we were up 6-3 and then lost 7-6. It was almost always kind of the same. We scored two, they scored two, in like early innings, and then one of us would scratch across another run in the later innings, and that one run or two runs was always kind of the difference. And we're always on the wrong side of it. It felt like, but it's baseball. It's just kind of the year that we had. It wasn't a bad team by any means. I mean, we were very competitive at every game. Had very few games where we were out of it, and a lot of the times when that happened, we were probably short on pitching that day, and we had to ride out a starter a lot longer than we wanted to, or just something like that. But yeah, hopefully we'll turn the page on that, and a lot of the guys that are going to be returning this year are motivated by what happened last year, and that's kind of the fallout too from being as good as we were in 2024. Is we didn't sneak up on anybody last year. Every team was using a lot of their best arms against us. They were ready to, they were ready for us everywhere we went. We had good crowds and the atmospheres were good, and it was probably because we're the reigning West Division champs, and that gets everyone's attention going into the next season.
Yeah, well, didn't talk with Max, but I read an article that Max was in earlier in the offseason. He said like this wasn't a bad team. He's been on bad teams before. It just was bad results. And just looking at some of the other stats, like the batting average numbers weren't exactly, I'm sure, where you wanted it to be. Same with the run scoring, but when you're in every single game, it's kind of hard to argue that it was, just bad results ultimately. Pitching still was really solid. Again, a team ERA of a 4.46, which was just middle of the pack last year. And again, in an offensive heavy league, if anytime it seems like you're below a 5 ERA, you have a really good starting rotation. And ultimately, your rotation had so many injuries with Landon going down for a little over a month. You see James Bradwell get a good start for the couple of games he was here, but then he got hurt. It just seemed like almost everyone either was good and then they got picked up by someone in Mexico or they moved on, or they ended up getting hurt, and that's just kind of unfortunate. What sometimes happens to some teams. That was just not a case in 24, and that was just ultimately kind of what the story was in 25. So let's kind of also take a look at those 34 one-run games. When you look at one-run games, for an example, like how many of those is it, like is it something that you can just hand pick, or is it just you watch the game and you just kind of know like maybe 5 moments of a game where you said if this guy came up in this spot, or if we made a better pitch here, we're winning at least half of those, and ultimately if you won half of those you would be at 53 wins, which unfortunately still wouldn't be enough to even crack into the postseason on the west side.
Yeah, it's just, man, our division was so dang tough. I mean, like you mentioned, I think whoever it was that won first place in the East, I think if they had the same record in the West, they may not have made the playoffs, if I remember right. So, I mean, that just kind of goes to show you, how well rounded our division was, and but when you lose close games, like I said, it always comes down to, it feels like one or two moments of the game where, maybe they got the hit that they needed to push across that one run that won the game, and we missed those opportunities. And that's what it felt like more than anything. Like I said, I don't remember us blowing very many leads last year. I don't remember us going into the ninth inning up one and our closer blowing the game. I just don't really remember that happening. I'm sure it maybe did. Maybe we blew a lead in the eighth or ninth a couple of times, but it was always kind of just the same story. And like you mentioned, our team ERA was solid for whatever. But that means that you're giving up about 4 runs every 9 innings. So in order to win games, we need to be scoring about 5 runs every game to obviously win 5-4 at least on average, right? And it just felt like our offense was only generating about 3-4 runs a game, and um, we have some, Matt Workington and Max Murphy, kind of the two guys we lean on as far as RBIs and home runs or whatever, and both guys had solid years. I think though both of them would tell you that they're pretty motivated to come back and be better. I think Max is one of the best players to ever do it in Winnipeg, and he had a solid year. Matt Workington was the RBI leader in the Frontier League, and came into to the American Association for the first time, and I think he learned a lot about himself last year. Again, had a solid year, but I think going into this year, I know we'll have Murphy back. We're still waiting to see about Workington. I think both those guys are ready to build off last year and put up even better numbers this year, and that's what they're capable of. And you look back, like Jacob Robson ended up being one of our better players, but it took him about 2 months to really get going. And when you're playing in a tough division, we don't have time to give away the first month of the year, or you know what I mean, or have such a bad stretch like we had in whatever it was, June. Was it June? We had a really bad stretch, five
I
and
think it was I feel like it was July. July was the bad stretch. That had the
yeah,
couple of
okay.
the long losing streaks.
Yeah, because it was after Canada Day. I remember.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, it
so it
was
would have been
July.
July where we just could not find a way to get going, and ultimately that kind of ran us out of the playoffs that 1 month, because I remember we talked about it after one of the games. I think we were 22-21 or something, and I think we
Hmm.
said, this was the exact same record we had the year before when we won the
Hmm.
championship in the West, and so we were at the exact same point. Um, but I think we also knew that it was a little bit different situation. We knew how good of a team that 2024 team was, and how strong were pitching wise. And but last year, I think we knew we were still kind of, we were putting band-aids on everything. We were trying to hold it together. I mean, I think Mitch Lamson was our only original starter at one point in the year, like later in the year, that was still healthy and still pitching, and he was even throwing through some arm problems as well. And so, um, but that's baseball. I think when talking about 2024, I didn't realize maybe how spoiled we were that we didn't have hardly any injuries. Only a handful of guys got picked up, and this past year was quite the opposite scenario. And but some of it's good. I mean, we lost Dason Cruz in spring training, and for us that sucks. for him and what we want for our players, that's awesome. We want Dason to get to affiliated ball, and he ended up in AAA. But when you say goodbye to him and you're happy for him, and then you look back at what we got and you're like, well, we just lost a guy that hits 340, and that's not replaceable at this point. So then you're kind of patching it together. But it also, silver lining, it gave Keyshawn Lynch a little bit more opportunities, and he took advantage of it and had a good season offensively and proved that he can be a good guy for us. So there's give and take to both of it, but I'm hoping this year that we have a little less roster turnover.
And Dason almost on the doorstep right now. And you look at the Giants roster overall, all it takes is a couple of things to go his way, and he could be possibly playing at Oracle Park next summer. So that'd be a fun story to talk about. We'll move on to some of the new guys who are coming on into this 2026 roster. We've got a lot of young kids, and specifically, it's a lot of kids coming in from the Pioneer League. And this is what we saw from Sioux City last year, is that they pretty much loaded up their roster on guys who proved themselves in the Pioneer League. They ended up playing clearly some of the best baseball on a full season standpoint. They ended up winning the West. They ended up getting bounced in the first round of the postseason. But regardless, it is still Sioux City finding out young talent and then ultimately got them to where they were in the postseason. So let's take a look at some of these guys who are coming in. And I'm going to start out with Noah Marcelo just because he's kind of the catalyst for what is that Sioux City lineup, what they used. Marcelo, his speed is elite, 64 stolen bases last year. He had 23 the year prior, so he really jumped in that category. And then he still hits well, batting above 275 in all of his seasons with Boise, and then high extra base hit numbers on top of that, especially home runs. Again, Pioneer League gets a little bit more hitters friendly. Power can kind of jump out. But what does Noah Marcelo and his abilities show to you in an outfield that already has a pretty good history with Max Murphy being in right?
Um, yeah, really exciting young player. I've talked to a lot of people that either have coached him or coached against him, and they just talk about how much of a terror he is on the bases, and that's kind of what we were lacking last year. When you lose as many one-run games as we mentioned, having a guy like that he just gets on, he can get in scoring position really quick, and gives us a lot more opportunity to probably come through with some hits. And um, really excited for him. I've been told he's one of the better defensive center fielders you'll find, and it looks like we lost Jacob Robson to Staten Island or Long Island, so that's going to be a loss. But I think Noah's going to be a good replacement as far as a guy that hits towards the top of the lineup. I don't know, lead off, two hole. I'm not sure, but um, he's going to be an exciting player. And that's, you mentioned we've kind of gone into the Pioneer League a little bit more than we have in the past, and I think the league is probably going to start doing that. Just the league in general is getting younger, and the Pioneer League has kind of gotten a little bit more credibility of guys that have made the jump from there to the American Association. And Sioux City, like you mentioned, is a good example of that. Had several guys from the Pioneer League that had good years for them last year. So um, yeah, he'll be a good one. He'll be excited. I think our fans are going to really like how hard he plays, and he's gonna bring a lot to the organization this year.
I think the one thing that I'm not going to be concerned about this because I know professional athletes will make this adjustment really easily, but playing in center field in Winnipeg, especially later in or I guess earlier in the summer, like June and then into July when the sun sets a certain way, the way the sun hits off the windows and kind of blinds the outfielders. How do you think as a young kid like Noah, who's never played in our ballpark before, is going to be able to make that adjustment to a kind of a tough atmosphere, at least just from seeing where the ball hits its apex?
Yeah, that is a little bit of an adjustment. I mean, as good as Jacob Robson is in center, that got him a couple times last year. It's kind of tricky, but you get used to it. And I think Noah's a good enough athlete, and or whatever, that once he kind of figures it out there, then his instincts and everything like that will kind of make up for maybe if you slightly misread a ball or you're a little late breaking back on it, you're hoping that your center fielder's one of the more fast, athletic guys on the team that can overcome, a tough read or something like that. So I think he'll be that guy for us.
All right, we'll move on to a couple of the pitchers now. We'll start with someone who had a really good season last year in Oakland, finding a lot of ballers here on your new signings. We'll start with Noah Milliken. What a career move to go from Penn State, where he was a pretty good pitcher, to one of the best arms that the Pioneer League had to offer, and he's now going to make a jump to the American Association. This will be a prove it type season for him after a solid year last year. He's going into a much different offensive lineup, at least just from some of the teams that we're seeing in the American Association. Your Sioux Falls, your Fargos, teams who are notably having some of the better bats in the league. How do you think he's going to make that jump going from the Pioneer League, which is already a tough league to pitch in just from the surroundings, to now you're facing some proven hitters who have pretty much made their money on hitting?
Yeah, without looking at his numbers right now in front of me, but I remember, kind of going through the Pioneer League, and I remember he was at the top or maybe top two, three in strikeouts. I think he maybe had 10 walks. It was really low walks, which that's kind of what we like as far as me and Brew. When we're dealing with pitchers, we like to see that we're not just putting guys on base for free. And so immediately that stood out. And like you've already mentioned, Pioneer League is typically a hitter's league. So you figure you take the hitter's numbers with a little bit of a grain of salt, but then you got to almost give a little bit more respect for the pitching numbers that look good, because you do know that they go to some tough places to pitch, or some ballparks where the ball flies like crazy. Um, so if a guy can pitch well in the Pioneer League, that's pretty impressive, and kind of an indication that he's ready to jump into the American Association, and he'll be one of our starters this year. And seen some video on him. He's going to be like 89, 91, 92-ish. I know he's been doing some work in the off season, trying to get a little bit more velo. But just a guy that's going to pound the zone, rely on movement, location, and he'll be good. I mean, those guys that are coming from Oakland, they just won a championship, so um, they're obviously used to winning and expect to win. And we need that. We need guys, kind of how we've talked about before. We need guys that win, that maybe have a little bit more clutch in them, a little bit more grit, and guys that find a way to win games. And I think that's maybe, I don't want to say that's what we were lacking last year, but that's maybe what we're more emphasizing this year for sure.
Yeah, looking at his numbers right now, 14 games started, had a 2.12 ERA, 7-1 record. No wins and losses isn't exactly the best way of deciding what a pitcher is, but here's what can. 85 innings of work, only gave up 23 runs, 20 of them were earned, 5 home runs allowed, 12 walks compared to the 96 strikeouts, 4 away from the 100 marker. He's going to be someone who absolutely will pitch well. He did hit 10 batters, but again, it's a different league where you are in elevation. So maybe the breaking ball didn't spin the way he wants to. Sometimes that's kind of how I look at it sometimes. But otherwise, a solid year for Noah. He's be coming on in. Another California guy was from Berkeley. So he's going to maybe have a little bit of that Joey Matulovich type of vibe to him.
Let's hope.
Let's keep, I hope so too. Let's keep it going. Another Oakland baller, James Collier. He's coming in to the bullpen, which is now starting to take its shape. Solid year with Oakland again. You said they won a championship. 3.77 ERA across 43 innings of work, 55 Ks, 18 walks. Again, another league where home runs are kind of the staple because of the elevation. He only gave up one long ball last year, so take us through another right-hander in your bullpen.
Yep, a power arm. Seen video of him in the mid 90s. He'll be probably sixth, seventh, eighth inning kind of guy for us. Again, like you mentioned with his numbers, more strikeouts than innings, and pretty low walks. That always is going to intrigue us, especially if the velo matches. And talk to him on the phone. He's a little bit older, if I remember right. Not a ton of experience if you look at his baseball reference, but I believe he's like 26 or 27 years old, maybe even 28. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, but he'll be talk to him on the phone. He's a really good dude. You could tell he's motivated, excited. Um, that's a lot of times that's half the battle with independent ball players is trying to make them embrace the fact that they are where their feet are, and you're not you're not disappointed because you're not an affiliated ball. You're not going into anything with a bad attitude. We want guys that are hungry and excited and are focused on winning. And typically, if you focus on winning and you stop worrying about being an affiliated ball, whatever, that those kind of opportunities will come, and your performance will dictate if you get those chances or not. So another guy is super excited. He's going to come with his teammate Noah, who we just talked about, and I think those guys are both motivated to show up and prove that they're ready to make the jump.
All right, last new guy that we're going to hit here on tonight's episode, we'll go with Mason Doby. So our first Canadian signed to the roster, and he's had himself a pretty darn good season out in Dayton. College kid, so he's making his professional debut in the summer. 8 home runs paired with 8 doubles last season. He's going to be making a pretty big jump though from lower level Division I baseball to now the American Association. We're seeing that again. When we talk about the youth of our league now starting to really show. I feel like we're going to see a couple more true rookies come in. So take us through what you like about Mason and how he's going to fit right on into this roster, especially as a utility option.
Yeah, we got video of him. First and foremost, like that he's Canadian. I know our fans always appreciate when we have Canadian players on the roster. But got video of him. Really like his swing. He's didn't really catch at all in college, but he's self-proclaimed that his best position is catcher, and so he sent us some video of him catching pins and stuff like that. It looks really natural, so he'll probably be one of our catchers. Maybe that's where we'll see him in the lineup a little bit more. But capable of playing pretty much all over the field as well. So just that alone is pretty versatile. But I'm trying to remember his college numbers off the top of my head. He hit close to about 300, and I believe he had more walks than strikeouts, which is what I really like to see because that just tells me you know how to hit. And those guys with low walks, high strikeouts tell me you're more of a swinger, not a hitter. These guys that have a better walk to strikeout ratio tell me that you have an idea of what you're trying to do at the plate. So, um, yeah, love that we get a chance to bring a young Canadian kid on the team. Again, another kid that's super excited. Um, he doesn't know what he doesn't know yet. He's never been in pro ball, so he doesn't kind of realize probably what he's in for. I'm sure he's going to have a couple welcome to the league moments. And he's going to have to learn how to be a professional. But extremely excited and hungry and motivated, and sounds like from when I talked to him, he wants to be a good teammate, be with the guys. He said he wanted to stay at the team hotel so he could be around all the guys. Like he wants to embrace this experience, and who knows? Some of these guys really kind of hit the ground running, and some of them don't. We'll see what happens with him, but I think regardless of what his role is on the team, I think he's gonna factor in for us, and there's opportunities out there as long as you produce. So we'll give him that chance.
Yeah, this last season he had 46 walks compared to striking out just 26 times. The year prior, walked 33 times, struck out 34. The year prior in 23, 19 walks to 31. Hey, he's a guy who just doesn't strike out a whole lot, which is a very similar thing that we saw with Dason and clearly showed why he had success in our league. And he gets it done offensively. 61 hits. Now the power numbers aren't exactly the more eye-popping 8 doubles, 8 home runs, like I mentioned, 39 runs batted in, but it's getting hits, getting on base. He gets on base as good as anyone else does at a 431 on base last year. I mean, that's not a very easy thing to do, and especially in that low-level Division I, where you're playing against, again, some of the more underrated talent that is in the highest level of college baseball.
Yeah,
So
and
let's talk.
it's also like those college seasons. It's probably like only about 200 some at bats, and
Yeah.
if in a guy that walks a little bit more than normal, I think would you say 40 some walks and 200 some
Yeah.
at bats, right?
Yeah. So his entire college career, he walked 106 times. He struck out 100 times.
Right. And So when like a full season in our league would be somewhere in the 400 at bats, and so a college season he's getting like 200 something. So the 8 homers, 8 doubles, you expect those numbers to not be quite maybe what they would be over like a full professional season as well. So I think because the video I've seen, it looks like he's got some pop and um, not just kind of a slappy singles hitter. I think he's got a chance to maybe hit for a little bit of authority for us. So, um, but again, we'll see. He's going to be in a world where he's going to face pitchers that are better than a lot of the ones he's faced in his career. But like I said too, the league is getting younger, so he's going to face a lot of young arms too that he's been facing already. So I think he'll be an interesting one to watch for sure.
And so we'll wrap this episode up here talking about just maybe a couple of returners coming to the 26 roster. So at the moment, as we're speaking right now, that could obviously change over the next week. We got 17 names being added. Now I believe 10 or 11, so I think 11 now are returning to the 25 roster. Let's start with James Bradwell, someone who we saw for just quite literally a cup of coffee, and then he went down with an arm injury. When I talked to him going out of the season, I didn't know what exactly his plan was. I don't think he really knew exactly what his plans were, but I'm really happy to see the announcement that he signed to the roster this year. Take me through what your conversations were like with James and what his abilities are going to be able to bring to the ball club with a full season compared to just a couple of starts that he had back in August or July and August, I should say.
Yeah, so getting him back was one of our top priorities. He was one of my guys when I saw him last year. Even the first couple outings, he eventually kind of got hit, but you could tell the first few innings where he wasn't quite built up yet to be where he was, and um, you could tell that the kid was really good and he's got a lot to offer. And you could see why he was 12-0 with Quebec the year before. Um, just knows how to pitch, awesome demeanor on the mound. He's never too high, never too low. Um, Biggest thing for him, I mean, the kid threw a no hitter and we didn't get the win. I, I've never seen that. I'm sure it's happened before, but he's fully capable of being our ace next year. I'm not saying he's going to be. I'm saying he's capable of doing it though. Obviously, had to shut him down early last year because he was having some shoulder issues, I believe. He sent me some video this offseason of him playing long toss. It looks like he's healing up, and we're hoping he's going to be 100% healthy, ready to roll on opening day. We'll still wait and see. You just never know with injuries. Like I think he's feeling optimistic about it. But obviously, a guy that we get 100% healthy, he's got a chance to be one of the better starters in the league. And I really believe that. And yeah, I wish we would have had him the whole year last year. It kind of sucked. We only had a brief glimpse of him, but you could tell he's more than capable of being a good pitcher for us.
I'm excited to see a full season. We'll wrap it up with our guy who we're talking to a little bit later on the episode. Tasker Strobel will be uh, relieving you for this episode one. Take us through just what Tasker means, not just to the roster and to the bullpen, but what he means to this organization and what he's brought to the city of Winnipeg for the last 3 seasons and what he's going to bring in his fourth year.
Yeah, much like Max Murphy, Tasker's one of kind of your all-time Goldeyes. He's I don't know what year this is going to be in Winnipeg for him, 4 or 5 maybe, but he's he's without question kind of the leader of our bullpen, one of the main leaders of our entire team. He cares, which is a big deal for me, especially with the older guys. He's not just playing to play. He's playing to win. He wants to win a championship. He wants to bring that back to Winnipeg. And he was a big piece in 2024 when we made a big run, and he was one of our more consistent arms on a loaded pitching staff. And then last year we had to, when we're patching stuff together around him, he was our one guy that was in the I don't say he was our one guy, but he was one of the guys that was healthy and still, available to pitch for me every day. It felt like any day he could go, he told me, I'm good. I'm good. I mean, obviously you can't pitch every day. That's not realistic, but if he could, he would. And so that's invaluable. And um, he's he's still, I mean, he's still even getting a little bit older. He's still getting guys out. He's still, I mean, he was an all-star this last year. Correct me if I'm wrong, right?
Yeah.
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 So yeah, so he's, I mean, he's still doing it at a high level. And um, we've signed a couple other younger lefties that'll be, in relief as well this year, and hopefully they, take note of what Tasker does and how he approaches the game, and how to be a good reliever in this league, because Tasker's one of the better ones that that's come through Winnipeg for sure.
All right, Skip, thanks so much for stopping on by. We'll talk to you soon as we get closer and closer to spring training and ultimately opening day. Goldeyes are down in Milwaukee to start off the year. First time saying Milwaukee on opening day. Kind of wish we were starting down in warm Texas, but that's okay. We'll make do with Milwaukee. Thanks for stopping on by, Skip. We'll talk to you soon.
Yep, thanks, Trevor.
We're going to the bullpen for our second guest here on the Inside Pitch, episode one of the 2026 season. We're Tasker Strobel. Tasker, where are you calling from and how you doing so far here in January?
What's up, man? Calling from my home in Plainfield, Indiana. Doing, doing great this off season.
I mean, Tasker like things, plenty of golf, plenty of extracurricular activities before you head northbound.
Oh yeah, definitely have to try to get in there. Right now it's a little cold, just kind of like Canada. Simulators are open, but we'll definitely be hitting the golf course in spring.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I'm at St. Petersburg right now. It's 73 degrees as I speak. And I work at a golf course. Just there was about 100 people out here. It was probably the nicest day we've had in the last 2 weeks. Do you want to know what the low was the last couple of days where I felt like it was super cold?
No, I do not,
I
because I'm
no
sitting at
you
29 degrees right now, and we're about to get hit with a brutal winter mix this weekend.
I'll say it anyways. The low was 50 degrees, and I felt
Yeah,
like it was back up in Winnipeg.
yeah,
Yeah, we'll hit a high of 78 tomorrow, so I'm going to the beach as well on top of that. So just to rub it in a little bit more.
yep. Okay.
Anyway, Anyways, let's get right onto this thing. So last year, I talked with Logan about this. It wasn't a bad team last year. It was just unfortunate bad results, a lot of close games, nothing really fun and sparkly about those. But I want to hear what your perspective was like from your point of view. Obviously, being in the bullpen, you have such a big responsibility. You were kind of the everyman so far last year on the pitching side. You started games. You took bulk relief roles. You had to close out some games. I mean, you literally did almost everything Logan asked you to do to get to a point of the season where it just was kind of like putting band-aids on a bunch of cannonball explosions through the ship. So take us through what it was like last year, pitching kind of in that environment, and just your outlook on what the 2025 Goldeyes were.
Yeah, I mean, definitely came up short of our goals, I think. I think everyone would say that. Um, but you know, I that's just kind of how I've always been is, do whatever coach needs me to do. And I think that kind of gets lost in like the affiliated ball, all that stuff. It's like, no, dude, we're here to win. We're here to pick it up. We're here to do my job, whatever it needs to be, whether it's starting a couple games because we had a starter go down. Landon was sick last year, um, stuff like that. So it's just like next man up mentality. That's part of being a good teammate. That's what I always kind of strive to be. It's like that's what I want my legacy to be known as. Like top teammate guy. Will do anything for the team, all that stuff. Whether it's starting, closing, relieving, 1 out, 2 out, 18 outs. All that stuff.
You were pretty much that entire guy through and through. And close games are a lot of what can define baseball. But this year specifically, or I guess last season specifically, there was 34 one-run games. Whether you're winning or losing games, that just means that you're in 34 games that ultimately can be decided by a certain moment, and whether that moment is on the offensive side or the defensive side. So for you, when you go into a close one-run game, knowing that kind of the deciding factor could be a moment where you're in the game, what is your mindset like in those instances?
I think that's where you have to be just 100% mentally locked in and focused, and you know, not screwing around down the bullpen, but like, hey, this is where we're at. This is what we need to do. Let's get our job done. Let's go in the locker room with a dub and keep that rolling. That's got to be a record for how many one-run games. This could be a whole different like topic we're talking about last season if we
Hmm.
win half of those or anything like that. So, I mean, we were right there. It's not like we had just this astounding bad team. I mean, everyone's coming off oh, we were in the championship last year and then we kind of have a down year. We were still good. It was just unlucky at times. And then we hit injuries and then we had a
Hmm.
starting pitching situation. And I think that kind of highlights what we need to do this year. You know, I mean, that's Logan's job, all that stuff. But going into not allowing that one more run, let's be on the other side of the one run. Let's hit one more guy in or two more guys in. It's like I think we got it down to that much, and I think we're right there.
Oh, I read something that Max talked about earlier in the off season. It was right after the Goldeyes, and it was announced that he's coming back for another season. Was that he's been on bad teams before. Last year did not have a bad team. It was just tough results. So, I mean, you kind of echoed the same thing because I'd imagine that you've been on some not so great teams before, but this year just felt, or last season, it just felt like, my goodness, just nothing was going your guys' way throughout the whole course of the season.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. Definitely been on some bad teams. I'm not gonna like crap all
Hmm.
over those or whatever. It's part of my journey. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, I feel the same way. I don't think last year was a bad team at all. We had a bunch of great guys in the locker room, and we're bringing back a really good core right now. And then hopefully some more good guys.
All right, let's kind of focus on to what your career has been like so far. I mean, you and Murph are both guys who with gritty partner league indie ball experience. I mean, that's just kind of what you guys have established yourself as. You specifically, you've kind of gone through a bit of the ringer of almost everything in your career. You've gone to foreign leagues, you've played winter baseball, you've pitched in great environments like Winnipeg, you've probably pitched in places where there was nobody there. You pitched in the what was it, the United Baseball League in COVID, where there was quite literally probably two people in attendance, and that was just for scores or other reasons. So, take me through what your or take us really through what your career has been like from the moment you entered pro ball to coming to your fourth season in Winnipeg.
Yeah, it's been a journey, that's for sure. Started in 2017. My hitting coach in college knew Jeff Isom, who used to be the Chicago manager last year, and I think is with Gary or some. I think he's Gary's manager right now, but he was my first manager in Joliet in 2017, and then I was the college kid, got booted to the bullpen, and then got cut for a AAA arm that was coming down, and I was like, "Well, welcome to pro ball." That was kind of how it was. Like, okay, what do I need to do now? And then, just been grinding ever since. Had Tommy John coming on the way back, and then got an opportunity to throw for Gary for a weekend, and then ultimately went to the United Shores Professional Baseball League up in Utica, Michigan, a four-team league, and at that time it was one of the only leagues going through COVID. And man, if it wasn't for that, I don't know if I'd be talking to you right now. So you can't look down on the littler leagues. They're like a project, a step, a next step, league for that. And I think there's a lot of good players that play in that league or in the Pioneer League and stuff like that that can definitely help out, the Atlantic or the American. Then actually signed with Trois Rivieras as a Frontier League after that, but that was COVID, like the back end of it, and Canada shut its border, so I couldn't go. And Gary tagged me back. Played there for a year, did really well. I was like, okay, I like the American Association, and basically threw my best against Winnipeg, and that's when Rick Forney was like, okay, I need this guy, and that's how I became a Winnipeg Goldeye. And followed Rick for a little bit and then saw um, the other side of the Atlantic, and then had a rocky start, after playing winter ball down in Mexico after my good season in 22 here in Winnipeg. So, it was like, okay, let's go back to the American. Went to a couple different teams, came back, saw how like different clubhouses work, and then ultimately landed back with the Goldeyes and happy to be here.
And that's where we'll transition to next is your time in Winnipeg. You come in 2022. Obviously, you mentioned Rick Forney bringing you on. Skipped out in the 2023 season, came back for 24, 25, now here in 26. Would you say Winnipeg is your home? Like, if you want to think of Tasker Strobel as a professional baseball player, does the Winnipeg Goldeyes kind of come up first in your mind?
Absolutely. I think I've met a ton of guys there that I could call very, very close friends. Logan's one of my, he's a boy too. He's my guy. Donnie and Brew are really good coaches. Andrew's become a really good like point of contact. And just like the whole community, I have really good friends outside. At the PAL, or whether it be at other places. It's Amos Ramon, who used to be a hitting coach. Me and him are going into business together, maybe. Uh, all this other stuff. It's like, yeah, I would definitely call it my professional baseball home for sure. Home away from home.
So I'll actually kind of bleed into the next question as well. So there's going to be a healthy amount of young kids coming into this Gold Eyes team, and this is what Logan and I talked about earlier: is that the league itself is going to be younger. Guys coming in from the Pioneer League. You got kids who will be making their professional debut with the Gold Eyes this year. So for a young kid who has no idea what to expect when they come north of the border, when they come into Blue Cross Park on the home opener in May later this year, what do you think is going to open up their minds or maybe open up their eyes and say, there is professional baseball, but there is not a whole lot of places like this and like what the Winnipeg Goldeyes are?
I think it definitely comes down to fans. I think, opening day and all those great festivities that we hold and them throwing in like in front of that many fans is like kind of sets you up like, okay, this is it. Like, let's go. Um, Not to like talk bad, but like I don't know how much like Sioux City or like anything like that. But I think the fans in Winnipeg definitely make it high level stuff and it's like eye opening for a little bit
I
for
mean, not
younger
only
guys.
that, yeah, not only that, but what is it like also then being in the city of Winnipeg? If you're staying at the team hotel, the walk from the hotel on Portage to get to the ballpark too, like what are the extra parts of Winnipeg that maybe a player doesn't think about until they ultimately get there?
Yeah, I mean, you're probably not from there. Let's say you probably grew up in some town in the United States and you go up to Winnipeg, you're in a big city, city living, so that might be different. I mean, you're gonna have homeless people, you're gonna have crazy people, you're gonna have just you gotta fit in that part, and then you gotta put on the professional hat of like, okay, I gotta be a professional about this. I gotta get my work done. I need to go work out before the game. I need to get there promptly. I need to eat. I need to do all that. So it's taken care of. But that's learning how to be the professional side of it. You gotta do your duties in that. You gotta figure it out.
Yeah, you're at what? So you came into Winnipeg at 2022. So how old were you in that season?
It's a good question. 20. Oh, I'm 30 now. So that's 4 years ago, 26.
Yeah. So by that point, when you were 26, do you believe that you were, I mean, you knew you were established professional by that point, but do you think you had as much knowledge as you probably wouldn't have had if you were maybe younger going into Winnipeg for the first time? Like, do you think that the professionalism was settled in by that point in your career?
I would say, yeah, it had to be a little settled in because I played for Gary that year before and I knew Winnipeg, so we went up there and that was cool. I mean, going to Winnipeg as like the first away trip is awesome. It's eye-opening. It's like, oh my gosh, this is sweet. I've had teammates down in Joliet tell me Winnipeg was awesome. So, um, but it's yeah, I mean, if you're a younger guy than that coming straight out of college, yeah, you're gonna have to figure it out. You're gonna have to lean on some of the veteran guys. You're gonna have to ask a ton of questions. You have to just that's how you have to learn to be a professional. And the only way to learn is by just doing it.
We'll keep moving things along, and we'll go to your evolution as a pitcher. So imagine when you were younger, arm was a little more livelier, the ball was coming out a little bit faster. But as you've gotten older, and this is just common thing with pitchers when they get older, they become more seasoned. They start relying on the breaking ball more. They rely on their off speed. What was that like for you, just kind of growing up and eventually kind of realizing that as a pitcher, your fastball isn't the pitch that you need to rely on the most, and you can ultimately utilize your entire arsenal to eventually make yourself just a better pitcher in general.
I'd say I'm one of the special ones that has never actually relied on his fastball. For all the short, young, and like dudes out there that haven't hit a growth spurt senior year, I mean, I threw the ball like 84 mile an hour senior year high school. Went to JUCO, and that's where I hit my growth spurt and started throwing like 86 even. Got to pro ball throwing 88. So I always had to be the crafty lefty. Always with a curveball and changeup, and then from there I've added a short slider and then now sweeper. So even though I'm in the bullpen, I do rely on a lot of pitches. Um, I relied heavily on changeup kind of the past 2 years, but the pitch that I've probably gotten most outs on and stuff actually is my fastball. So I need to throw fastball more, basically.
So I'm glad we got to that conclusion there. I mean, we looked at your stuff last year, and that changeup again was the pitch that you really continued to rely on. I mean, just the breaking stuff, it seems like has gotten better and better over the years. I mean, we talked about in 22 how that was one of your best seasons as a professional. 2024 was another good season. I mean, I don't know where you would rank your time in Winnipeg so far from years, at least from your personal performances, but kind of seemed like last year you took the biggest step forward, and eventually it led to you becoming an all-star.
Yeah, I think personally, just feel wise and everything, last year was my best year stats wise and feel wise and stuff like that. 2022 year was awesome, but I think mostly that was just because the saves as a closer. You got that number. I felt good there. So I think I would definitely rank it uh, last year being my number one, my best year. Even though,
Yeah.
as a whole, it kind of didn't go well. And then 2024 was our best as a whole. That probably
hmm
was ranking third right now in my Winnipeg. So, but we had other good guys. And that's what it takes. It takes a team to
hmm
get it doesn't take one. It takes all.
Yeah, they all had a really good bullpen in that 24 season, which again, that just kind of shows how good you guys were just overall. It seemed like as soon as, I mean, from the start of the game, like if Joey or Landon were both on, they hand the ball off to the rest of the guys in the bullpen. Just seemed like, yeah, good luck because you had you coming in. Even if you need another left-hand option, you had Ben as well on top of that, and the right-handers were all so good. This year, you're again in another leadership role. It's a very young bullpen. So, what is it like being again that next leader? Very similar to how Mitch Lampson is on the starting staff.
Yeah, I'm gonna be the guy answering all the questions. Those young guys come in. Hey, how do I do this? What do I need to be thinking here? What do you think Logan or Brew is thinking in this situation? And I hope those guys ask those questions. That's how they learn. That's how I help them. That's how we just win as a team. If we're all on the same page, all pulling the same way, um, just be the best leader I can. Passing down the game. I'm in that role where it's my last season, and I'm gonna say that up front. It is my last
Mhm.
season, so it's I want to give back as much as I can, whether that's stats or knowledge or whatever. That's what I want to do.
Well, also by Mitch joining the ball club late in 24 and then him being for a full season in 25, you and him are kind of similar in that crafty lefty spot. How much have you learned from Mitch over the short time that he's been your teammate?
Yeah, he's one of the older guys. He's older than me, so but how he takes care of his body, he uses the arc wave, and that he's showed me that and really helped out. Even on buses, how like we should probably get up and do some type of arm movement or how like not sleeping the entire time, not laying down, but moving the body, um, in that way. But
Mhm.
also just, I mean, just I don't know, just
It's
keeping the
all, it
body
is a lot.
moving, and it's yeah. I mean, all of us are grinding basically. Yeah, Mitch is a great guy. Though. I love that guy, and I'm glad he's back.
All right, we'll finish this up with the little surprisey wisey that I said at the very top of when we talked for the first time. So this has been a fun thing that I like to do is I like to build my music playlist over the course of the season, and most of it does come from your guys' walk-up music, your entrance songs. I put "Burn It to the Ground" on my playlist after you came in for the first time at home. I went to Tampa Bay Lightning's preseason game. That was their goal song, so I think it just kind of settled in. There were some really good ones last year. I liked Cherry's "Borderline." His entrance song was fun. Ben had a really fun one as well. A couple of guys had some cool walk-ups. So when you're choosing your entrance music for the season, what thought process goes into it? And has there been one that you said this stands out because it's been my favorite of my career?
I've had like three in my entire life. Well, actually, that's a lie. Four in my entire life. High school walk-up song was "Song 2" by Blur, and that just gives me the wahoo. And I think we play it when we score right now at
Hmm.
the Goldeyes. So that was my first walk-up. Second walk-up, I think was, or like walkout was Murph's old one, the
Oh, the stroke.
yes, the stroke, because it kind of
Yeah.
sounds like Strobel or like Strobe, and that's what was
Yeah.
my nickname, Strobe. So that I always had that one. That was my longest one, and then I came here and Murph had it. I was like, dang, I can't use it. Um, but I'm gonna always pick something hard hitting, just get me pumped up there, amped, get the crowd going. The "Burn It to the Ground" by Nickelback is just it's so good. That's what it is. It's mine. That's what I need.
Did it work also because it was a Nickelback song and you were in Canada? That
It,
just add
it
to it.
it definitely helped. That's for sure. But
And
I've been
was it?
I've been a stan of Nickelback even through all the fads that everyone hated Nickelback. No, I was the one saying, "Why are we hating Nickelback?" And I'm glad everyone has come to their senses. Nickelback is good. They've always had been good. Silver Side
I,
Up album slaps.
I'm so glad you and I are on the same page of that. I was going out on a Saturday night with my roommates, and we were driving. We took an Uber to go, and they were just they. First of all, this is the problem with that. One of them didn't know any Nickelback songs, or if they did, they had no idea what it was. The second one was kind of bashing it a little bit, and so my our Uber driver, this guy was a legend. He started playing Nickelback songs
Yep,
on our way into downtown,
and
and
everyone loved it.
they woke up a little bit. Let's just put it that
Good,
way.
good. Yep,
I've been the same. I've been the same way. I don't think they deserve any of that hate. I would.
yeah,
I can't. I don't think I could enter into any sort of Nickelback songs. Maybe I don't know. I don't think that's me. That's probably not my personality. So I don't think I could get the hard rock or
yeah,
anything that they've got. But I did enjoy listening to "Burn to the Ground" every time Tasker came in. Just
good.
I wish we had the bullpen doors that actually swung
Yeah,
open.
exactly,
Had a little
exactly.
fire onto it.
Yeah,
But
a
it
little wild thing of
Rick Vaughn. That was
Rick Vaughn. Yeah,
so
I
was
kind
there
of
some?
so a little fun fact. I kind of do a little Rick Vaughn. When I stand out, I look at myself on the big screen, and then I'm always facing away, and then I turn, and
Yeah,
that's when game face is on. That's when we go.
that's the lock-in moment.
Yeah, so that's a little fun fact.
That is a good one. All right. Because I can go back on some of those videos from the
Yeah,
seasons and all right, I can clock that now. That's fun.
yep, I do that. That's a
Was
thing.
there was there someone's walkout or entrance music where you were sitting there thinking, God, I really wish I could have chose this one at some point in my career. This is good.
Nah,
No?
nope, nope.
Does anyone have a good entrance or walk-up music that you say, yeah, I like that one? Or like when you go on the road and you're sitting there thinking, hey, this is actually kind of fun. I get it.
Um, there's a couple. I mean, like any of the like the hard country or some like because I like country too, but I mean you don't get a lot of like hard rock. You get like the
Hmm.
happy, ABBA or all that stuff. It's just like well, that's overplayed and all that stuff. But no, I
Hmm.
like let's get after it. It's hard rock. Thunderstruck's pretty good on some. Hell's Bells is a really good one. I know some people
Yeah.
do. Um, but yeah, I mean, nah, Burn It to the Ground is number one.
All right. Final one that we're going to do here, and then this is truly final one. I just kind of thought about this. So, again, for rookies who are about to experience a Winnipeg Goldeyes bus trip, what are the two things they need to bring on the trip, and what are the two things that they need to know before getting on the sleeper and what it's like actually aboard the fish tank?
Number one, you got to have your passport. That's a given. You need to bring pillow and blanket. I like bringing comforter. Um, and then definitely all your chargers and stuff. That's for
Hmm.
sure. So, and food. You bring food.
Yeah,
Um, and then
those, and then just what do they need to know when they're going to hop on? It's like, all right, we got 14 hours until we hit Gary or Chicago. So,
yeah, you need to learn some card games. You need to probably learn some Catan. You need to learn music. That's a big one. Logan
mhm.
loves doing Logan and Donnie up there love doing little music throwdowns. You better have a good throwback song that gets everyone hype. Um
Is there a specific genre that they should probably eye on to so they kind of have a good idea?
like the middle school throwbacks, kind of like 2000s, early 2000s, that's where the sweet spot is. So if you got any good recommendations that are kind of slap on, you can't go the main key mainstream ones. You got to be like, "Oh,
Yeah.
you remember this one?" So yeah, study
All
up.
right. All right, Tasker Strobel, thanks for stopping on by, closing out episode 1 here of the 2026 Inside Pitch. Tasker, thanks for stopping on. Bye.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.